And so we are definitely wanting some engagement from the audience. And so please feel free to drop down some chats, some messages and things like that. We have some folks here that will help kind of manage the chat and things like that. So again, welcome to everyone. We're super excited to start this conversation off. And thank you all for being on time. All right, I know that y'all are zoomed out, and so we're not going to hold you too long, but this is a very important and critical conversation that we're excited to have with you all. So to start off, the Dean of Students Equity and Inclusion Office and the Marymount Inclusion Network would like to welcome you all to our wrap-up discussion on the book of Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. Some of our Inclusion Network members are here. We're super excited for you all to join us. And for some of you all who may not know what the Inclusion Network is, in 2020, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee formed a Marymount Inclusion Network. It is a support network for students, faculty, and staff across the campus committed to building a more inclusive campus community. This network has shown dedication to understanding the challenges and needs of our students who are of varied lived experiences and backgrounds. Efforts made by our Inclusion Network resulted in the creation of our wonderful, beautiful Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office that's located in Raleigh Academic Center, the first floor. Okay, y'all come by and visit, say hello with your mask on. Our collective mission is to develop an ever-learning community that examines literature and scholarship. And tonight we will discuss the themes and the impact that Just Mercy has had on our community. And so, again, it's going to be a relaxed environment. Our guest speaker, he is looking forward to interacting with you all. And so those of you who may have read Just Mercy, maybe you saw the movie, maybe you haven't read it yet, or you haven't saw the movie, you just want to join this conversation to see what the hype is all about. I encourage you all to just drop in the chat or even unmute yourself and just join us in this conversation. But those who have read the book, what are some major themes that stood out for you or something that really challenged you or maybe even impacted you in a positive way? And we'll spend about 90 seconds with us pondering on this book and dropping some notes or in the chat if you want.
I'll say, Tate, I was really inspired by Brian Stevenson as someone that also, graduated from law school, and he talked about, all the big dreams that he had and really wanting to use his degree to do something important and to change lives. But what I really loved is that he said, it's not enough to just have these big dreams. You've got to have vision, and you've got to put the work behind that. And so I know there's so many themes in the book, but really I think that applies to even the work that we're doing on campus. We have this great vision and the direction that we want to drive our inclusion efforts, but or these ideas, but we really have to, target our vision and put in the work to support it.
Yeah, I want to mirror sort of what Brooke was saying too. One of the things that really struck me that impacted me greatly, and I think reflects the work that we do on campus, is what he said about his grandmother saying, you got to get close. And I think to me, that was so moving and so true to everything that we do. Like in the classroom, how are you really going to impact your students unless you get close? And you got to get to know people. You got to get to know the people that you agree with, and you got to get to know the people you disagree with too. And I don't think we can do anything until we form those relationships and get close.
I really admired the power of his persistence and his strong sense of self and mission that was undeterred by the very, very harsh negative things around him. And it was really humbling to read that.
Absolutely. Some folks in the chat saying that the disenfranchisement and the conviction rate of the mentally ill, the reality of being poor and Black and targeted for incarceration. Professor Buckner is saying how not everyone has the same access to fairness and justice. And we'll definitely talk about more of that tonight. Cassandra says, I love the line about how the opposite of poverty isn't wealth, but justice. Really thought-provoking about about how we address income inequality truly requires. Absolutely, very thoughtful reflections. I have, and again, feel free to chime in at any time. One of the things that I really love about this book, so I have a special love for this book. I first read it in 2016 and then reread it in 2017. And during my time at California State, Los Angeles, I was just trying to figure out, how can I get everyone to read this book? And so I ended up having the opportunity to work with our Pan-African Studies department at that institution during that time that I was there, to institute a curriculum based off this book. And so that's how much I love this book. Also, I'm not new to book reviews. If y'all follow me outside of my own, outside of Marymount, I actually have a YouTube page dedicated to book reviews. It's a shameless plug. Follow me on Mr. Big Head Reads YouTube. Anyway, so I love this book. It shows so much of the stories that I've never really heard of. Of course, some of the major stories that I was kind of familiar with Walter McMillan, but this particular book just showed like all of the inequities that not only impacts Black men, but even our children and women, right? And so Brian Stevenson mentioned one quote that really stood out to me the most, which is, the power of just mercy is that it belongs to the underserving. It belongs to the underserving, is when mercy is least expected, that is most potent, strong enough to break the cycle of victimization and victimhood, retribution and suffering. It has the power to heal the psychic harm and injuries that lead to aggression and violence, abuse of power, and mass incarceration. One of the major themes highlighted in this book is the focus on the humanity of those who are considered less than by our society and the criminal justice system. We see this as the primary focus of the book, and specifically we see this in Walter McMillan's story. We understand, of course, that Walter McMillan was on death row for allegedly killing a white woman in Monroeville, Alabama. And many of you know what the significance is. Historical significance with Monroe, Alabama, is that it is connected to Harper Lee's major literary classic, To Kill a Mockingbird, right? And so To Kill a Mockingbird, of course, is a book based off a Black man who was falsely accused of raping a white woman. Stevenson masterfully takes us on a journey of fact-finding and redemption. Stevenson did a great job of highlighting each story in a way that humanizes each person, right, and who he was advocating for. Susan already mentioned about how his grandmother was very influential in his life and how she reminded him that to understand things, he must learn from up close. Throughout the various chapters of Just Mercy, the author actively pursued issues related to mass incarceration and wrongful convictions. The author was intentional with getting close to those people who were wrongfully convicted, like Walter McMillan, and those unjustly sentenced, like our guest tonight, Kuntrell Jackson. Tonight, we have the privilege of being in close proximity to someone who understands what it means to be forgotten and mistreated by a criminal justice system. I'm seeing more coming in, more chats coming in. Here we go. So how can we, so we are not implicated. Brooke says we are all implicated when we are allow others to, I'm sorry, we are all implicated when we allow other people to be mistreated. An absence of compassion can corrupt the decency of community, a state, and a nation. Fear and anger can make us vindictive and abusive, unjust and unfair, until we all suffer from the absence of mercy and we condemn ourselves as much as we victimize others. The closer we get to mass incarceration and extreme levels of punishment, the more I believe it's necessary to recognize that we all need mercy and we all need justice, and perhaps we all need some measure of unmerited grace. That's that's it. Like, that's so deep. I think that one of the things that compelled me to this book is also that act of grace, right? That we understand that mercy and grace comes together, but we often forget that grace is sometimes given more than mercy should be, right? And mercy is things that we really don't deserve, right? And understanding what just mercy is. And I thought that it was very key that he labeled this book, or entitled this book, Just Mercy, not just mercy for the sake of mercy, but that act of the justness of mercy, right? And so I had the opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to create a curriculum around this wonderful book during my time in Los Angeles. And the culmination of this experience for these students actually landed us in Montgomery, Alabama. And so I was able to take 17 students to Montgomery, Alabama to see up close and personal the things that Bryan Stevenson mentioned in the book. And so we got a chance to go to the Equal Justice Initiative, got a chance to see the National Lynching Museum. But what stood out to us the most was that we were in the actual museum in the Equal Justice Initiative, and there's an assimilation segment in the museum where you're able to pick up a phone, right? Similar to like you're going to visit someone in the prison system, and you know there's a wall there or there's a clear glass, and so on the other side you hear someone's story. And so we picked up the phone. You hear various different stories, like Walter McMillan's story. You hear Anthony Ray Hinton's story. And so I remember circling around some of the students, and we was listening to this compelling story of this young man. And after the story was over, we put the phone down, and I was like walking around, making sure students are intact, that they're close by. And one other student was walking away, and she startled. She's like, "Oh my God!" And she looked at Kuntrell, and she's like, "Wait, are you the same guy that was on the screen?" And so it was so funny because we was not expecting anyone like from this experience to be there. And Kuntrell was absolutely kind, gentle, and welcoming to our group. And honestly, he gave us a first-class experience of the Equal Justice Initiative and the National Lynching Museum. Without him, we would not have the great stories that we have today that we still share. And so it's an honor and privilege to really welcome Kuntrell to our group on tonight. He is a native, I'm probably gonna butcher this, we just went over it, but he is a native of Blytheville, did I do it right? Okay, Blytheville, Arkansas. He was raised in an impoverished area plagued with guns, violence, and drugs. Mr. Jackson's introduction to the criminal justice system was at the age of 14, where he was involved in a video store robbery that turned tragic. Tonight, Mr. Jackson will share a little bit about his life with us, the tragedies and the triumphs. After we watch this video, I would like everyone to join me in welcoming Mr. Kuntrell Jackson to Marymount University.
In the 1990s, criminologists began arguing that some children aren't children. They tried to persuade legislators that there was a new species of child. These kids looked like kids and sounded like kids, but they said these kids aren't really children. They said that these children are, quote, super predators. They directed this analysis mostly at Black and brown kids, and it was very effective. States started lowering the minimum age for trying children as adults. We began putting children in adult jails and prisons. This phenomenon of the super predator myth was later proved to be false. There was no evidence to support this idea that children were beyond redemption, but the consequences of that narrative, of that myth, persisted.
In November 1999, Kuntrell Jackson was only 18 days past his 14th birthday when he made the fateful decision to go with two other teens to a video store. But before that moment, Kuntrell's life had been surrounded by violence and struggle.
I was raised in the government housing projects. My earliest childhood memories when I was 4 years old. I watched my mother get arrested for shooting a neighbor. A few months later, me and my sister was being held by my mother on a Christmas Eve when the police came and got her and took her to prison. I had no relationship with my father, so I went to live with my grandmother. When my mom returned home, I watched her boyfriend physically and mentally abuse her. My childhood was surrounded by alcohol and drug abuse daily. At 11 years old, my brother went to prison for shooting a man.
On November 18th, 1999, Kuntrell and two other teens were walking through the housing projects in Blytheville, Arkansas, when someone suggested robbing a local video store. When they got to the store, Kuntrell decided to stay outside while the other two teens went in. After a few minutes, he became concerned about what was going on inside. A few minutes after he entered the store, he saw one of the other teens shoot and kill the store clerk. The three then fled without taking any money.
After my arrest, the courts overruled my request to have my case transferred to a juvenile division. The judge said the seriousness of my crime, I had to be charged as an adult. So I was charged as an adult, convicted of capital murder and armed robbery, and sentenced to a mandatory life without parole sentence. Despite I was only 14 years old at the incident, the judge still sentenced me to die in prison with life without parole.
We represented lots of young people who had been actually sentenced to die in the electric chair on death row in the state of Alabama. Following the Supreme Court's decision in Roper banning the execution of children, we realized that these children were still condemned to die in prison. Life imprisonment without parole was another terminal sentence. It wasn't death by execution, it was death by incarceration. And we felt like the same analysis that struck down the death penalty for children was applicable for life without parole. Children will change. That's the very nature of what it means to be a child. And we were condemning young people before they had the chance to change. And so we began arguing that life imprisonment without parole was also cruel and unusual punishment when imposed mandatorily on a young person, on a child. Without giving judges the discretion to consider age and the possibility of change, we were doing something quite cruel. We were also doing something unusual. The United States is the only country in the world that permitted these kinds of life without parole sentences for young kids. To advance these arguments, we began identifying people around the country whose cases we could take up. That's how we met Kuntrell.
In 2012, the United States Supreme Court issued a historic ruling in Kuntrell's case and a companion case. They found that it is unconstitutional to impose a mandatory life without parole sentence on any child under the age of 18. As a result of that decision, the Arkansas Supreme Court ruled that Kuntrell had to have a new sentencing hearing where the judge could consider a range of sentences and where, for the first time, the judge would have to consider Kuntrell's extremely young age, his family background, and the circumstances of the offense, including the fact that he was not the shooter.
At my resentencing hearing in 2014, after the United States Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional to give me a mandatory life without parole sentence, even the state of Arkansas agreed that life without parole was wrong. So they agreed to give me 20 years. After I did 16 and a half years in prison, I was granted parole. On February 21st, 2017, I was released from prison. To help me adjust after my release, I agreed to spend time in Montgomery, Alabama, participating in PREP, EJI's reentry program.
When you've been in prison for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, it's incredibly hard when you get released. But for young people sentenced to die in prison when they were 13 or 14 or 15, there are incredible barriers. You grew up in prison. You're facing the free world for the first time as an adult, and it's enormously challenging. Kuntrell met these challenges with a kind of passion and commitment that is remarkable, that is admirable, that made me really proud to see him doing the things he's done. He entered college despite the fact that he never got to graduate from high school the way most kids did. He became very committed to the study of theater and the arts. He's an avid chess player. He's worked incredibly hard, and those habits, that orientation has made me believe that he can do the things he wants to do in life. It's inspiring when we support people coming out of jails and prisons who have a deep commitment, a passion to make their life successful, and that's certainly true for Kuntrell.
I want to be a professional actor, writer, and inspiration to youth that come from a background similar to mine. I think acting and creative writing helped me use all of those skills I developed in prison.
On any given day, there are about 10,000 kids in adult jails and prisons. Hopefully, Kuntrell's story and everything he's had to overcome can bring some hope to these children who are still striving for their own freedom.
My work is clear. The odds facing me are clear. The potentials I have to make an impact is clear. But what's also clear is I can't do it alone, and neither can EJI. I need you to commit to meet someone with a story like mine and listening. The destructive narratives and ideas about young people cannot be replaced until you have other stories to replace them with. Volunteer with groups that'll lead you to our stories. Once you find your way to our stories, share them with people who vote, with elected officials, with judges, with reporters, with the whole world.
I'm so excited to be sitting next to this young man who is living proof of what justice, what redemption are all about. I met him when he'd been condemned to die in prison. People didn't believe his life had meaning. They thought his life was beyond redemption. They didn't think he had purpose. But he's come out of prison and he's proved all of that wrong. He's doing amazing things. He's representing the hope that we ought to have for everybody. There are thousands of people coming out of jails and prisons every year who need our support, who need our commitment, who need our compassion, who need our belief in what human beings can do if we give them the right chance. There's a great opportunity for you to join us in this effort. We can end mass incarceration. We can stop excessive punishment. We can create real change in our society and improve public safety. But we can't do it if we stay silent about these issues. If we don't give chances to people like Kuntrell and thousands of others who've come out of jails and prisons. Join us in this effort. Help us change the world. Help us end mass incarceration and excessive punishment. Help us restore life and hope in so many communities that have been devastated by unfair and just punishment.
Right. Wow. Woo. What a story, right? It's such a pleasure and honor to really welcome you to Marymount virtually, Kuntrell. We appreciate you devoting your time to be with us. We don't take it lightly at all. But as we mentioned before to the group, this is a very relaxed environment. We want to engage with everyone. And I definitely want our students who are on the call, our faculty members on the call, to have ample opportunity to really ask Kuntrell questions that they may have. But Kuntrell, if you could just start off with just really taking us to Arkansas, telling us how it was being raised in your area and how it was being raised in your neighborhood.
First off, I want to thank y'all. Thank everybody for coming out. I've never been to Marymount, but I'm honored to be here tonight. Thank y'all. Man, Arkansas. You know, the thing I feel about Arkansas, when people hear the stories about Arkansas, they automatically feel like, oh my God, white people and racists and getting hung and lynches, you know, because every time I tell somebody I'm from Arkansas, they be like, ain't they killing black people down there? And I be like, it's funny to me because, you know, I never really seen this type of activity growing up. Like, my mama probably seen it and her mama probably seen it. You know, I only seen like the real racist part where I'm black, so I'm guilty. You know, coming up, I was forced to be put in this community because my people couldn't afford the same opportunity as white people got. So I was forced to grow up in this community where we struggled, we suffered, you know, we didn't have anything. We went without lights, we went without food and clothes. It was terrible. So me, where I come from, growing up in a household with no father, that was normal. You know, if I meet somebody and they say that it's just them and their mama or them, their mama and the rest of their siblings, that's normal. You know, what was abnormal to us growing up was the people who had their mother and their father. So, you know, my earliest memory is when I was 4 years old. My mom, she was taking me and my sister, that's a year older than me, a bath. So my mama third child, she ran in the bathroom. She was just hollering, screaming, "Mom, mom, mom." So mama just ran out the bathroom. And my sister that's a year older than me, she was just so smart. She was so wise because when mama left, she put a towel around me and she said, "Don't move, stay right here." And she left. She left out the bathroom like she knew what was going on. So after a while, I didn't want to be in the bathtub by myself. You know, they done ran out of here. You know, I know something wrong, but I don't know what. So I get out the tub, I start creeping out in the hallway. And when I get halfway down the hallway, I heard a boom. So I froze, you know. It was a gunshot. What happened was my older sister and brother, my mom, by the way, I'm the baby of 5 kids. So my mama had 5 kids. She really did the single mother thing with 5 kids by herself for a long time. But she made it though. She got through it. So my older sister and brother, they outside fighting neighbor kids. And when my mama get out there, the neighbor kids' parents holding my brother down, letting 2 of the kids beat my brother up. So my mama tell him, let my son go. I guess they thought my mama was playing. She shot one of the kids' parents. And, you know, they took my mama away from me. You know, my mama went to prison. They gave my mama 10 years and she had to do a year. So we had to live with my grandmother. But while my mom was incarcerated, my grandmother died. She got real sick and she died. So when that happened, we had to go live with my aunt. Now my older sister and brothers, they went with one of my older cousins and me, my sister that's a year above me. We went to go live with my auntie. Now I truly can say, out of my whole time on this earth, this was the worst 11 months of my life. You know, I never felt pain like I felt in this 11 months. For some reason, I don't know why, I still haven't asked her. You know, I barely even talked to her, but I forgave her. But my auntie, she used to just torture me. Like, the woman hated me. I don't know why. She just tortured me. Like, she'll cook food and she always cooked squash and she know I hated squash. I couldn't stand squash. So she'll do things like, oh, you ain't getting no dessert and you gonna sit at the table until you finish this squash. But I never ate it, so I used to sit at the table till about 10 o'clock until she just told me go to bed. Or she'll see me playing with her son's toys and she'll snatch his toy from me, talking about this ain't yours, don't be touching his toys. You know, she'll get mad. Like, I remember one time, one of my family members bought me a toy and me and her son was playing with the toy. I guess she thought I was trying to not let him play with the toys with me. So she was like, oh, you don't need his toys. I'm gonna go buy you some toys. So she went and bought him some toys, trying to make me feel bad. I'm a kid, so of course I'm gonna feel bad, you know. But the one thing that just pained me, I remember she did it twice, but this one time she put me in the bathtub, you know, and she made me take my own self a bath. So she tell me, don't get out the tub, stay in the tub. It ain't time for you to get out of the tub. So the water done got cold, you know. So I'm in the tub just shivering and shaking. The water cold. She won't let me run no more water. She just torturing me. Why? I don't know. You know, I never did nothing to this lady. This is my auntie. I'm 5'4". I ain't never did nothing to her. She just used to torture me. But that tub situation, it was so, yeah. Yeah, so go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, with all of that, it sounds like that you had a really early experience of like torture, right? Like, and really being like overlooked and unseen. And I'm wondering, like, did any of that have an impact on you and your decision that you made that led you to the age of 14 and the robbery? Like, can you talk about like the steps that led up to that major incident?
Yeah, I was heading there. You know, my mom come home 11 months later. So I feel like, you know, this the best time of my life now. You know, I'm a kid now. But when she was gone, wasn't nobody there to rescue me. I couldn't tell nobody. I couldn't talk to nobody. Nothing. So my mom, she came back. So now I feel rescued. I feel loved. I feel everything a child's supposed to feel because my mama back. the one who really loved me and treat me like I'm somebody. But when mama came back, you know, things didn't get better. You know, it was still the struggle. It seemed like as far as the struggle, it got worse because she couldn't get a good paying job. You know, she a felony now, so she got to clean bathrooms and things like that just to make money. And that ain't nothing. So she was doing what she had to do. She had kids, and but when she came home, you know, her boyfriend, he used to just abuse her mentally. Now I never seen him hit her, but I know he did, you know. But he used to abuse my mama. And, you know, my mama used to work, and he used to work, and then he'd get drunk, and he'd come home, and he always want to clown. So it was just, it was crazy. But now I'm going to school. Now my anger started with my aunt. You know, that's what triggered my whole anger issues. But now I'm getting a little older. I'm going to school. You know, we living in and out of motels, and you know, we'll go stay all night on my uncle's house or my aunt's house because we either getting kicked out, we can't afford to pay the rent or lights off, water off. You know, we going over their house, filling up water jug, boiling water to take baths and stuff. My uncle and them, they giving us they kids hand-me-down clothes. They too big. We looking like bums. So it led me to become an introvert. Like when I go to school, I want to be in the back because I didn't want to be seen. You know, I got dirty clothes on. I got holes all in my clothes and shoes. And kids don't be kids. They pick on other kids like that. So I became an introvert. I don't want to talk. I just want to be, I'm invisible to me. To one day, of course, they spotted me out. And, you know, they started picking on me, laughing at me, talking about me. I started punching them. So now my anger growing, you know. Now I'm getting suspended. I'm fighting in school. Mama take out work. She got to come get me because, you know, she not really understanding what's going on with me. She just like, why you fighting me? I'm like, they messing with me. And she, you know how mother did back when we were coming up. So all this happening. Now I start going to this recreation center. So it's this black dude, you know, he over the rec, and all of us kids from the hood, we going, and you know, he trying to get us to not cuss and not do this and not do that, but he not asking the proper questions. You know, I see a lot of people trying to help kids, you know, and a lot of people think what works for one gonna work for all. But I'm here to tell you that's not true at all. It's not gonna happen. Somebody was saying something earlier that what Brian said about his grandmother. I totally agree. You cannot help a child if you don't get proximity to that child. Because if you don't get close to that child where that child can trust you, he's not gonna open up to you. See, I never had nobody like me to come talk to me. If I had one person just ask me like, Kuntrell, what's going on? What you need? How can I help you? They would have knew. All I wanted was my daddy. You know, I never knew my daddy. But one time my mama pointed my dad out. Me and my sister and my mom, we was walking one day to a store. And my daddy rolled by and she was like, that's y'all daddy right there. And he stopped. For some reason, he stopped. But he didn't stop to us. He stopped somewhere close. So when he got out, I see my daddy, you know. So I never forget his face no more. So now it's like I'm seeing his car more and more. Now I'm seeing him. I'm seeing how he look and stuff. But I never said nothing to him. I don't know him. Until one day my mom introduced us to him. But I used to always think like, why my daddy don't want me? Like what I ever do to make my daddy not want me? And nobody never asked me like all the things I was going through, all of the fights, all of the anger, all of the crazy stuff. They never said, Kuntrell, what you want? What you need? How can I help you? They would have knew I just wanted my daddy. So my anger started growing more now because I see him now and he alive, but he don't want no parts. He don't want no dealings with me. So now I'm getting more mad. I'm getting more angry. So now, as I get older, I start skipping school. I meet this group of guys who were more like me. And, you know, we formed a little clique. So what we did, we started hanging out together every day. We'll skip school, you know, we'll go in stores, we'll steal. You know, we ain't do nothing too crazy like shooting people, but we stealing, you know. You know, I wanted clothes and shoes, they wanted clothes and shoes, so that's what we did. We stole. We was hungry, so we stole chips and candy bars. We did that. So now the more and more I hang with them, the more and more of me thinking about my daddy, I'm forgetting. So it didn't hanging with them didn't take his place. It didn't fill the void, but it made me think less and less of having him in my life. You know, I loved the man and didn't even know him. He was my daddy, but I disliked him at the same time. So now we hanging out in the projects every day, every night. We think we tough now. We fighting, you know, we stealing, but we still haven't graduated to the grown people stuff. But a couple of my homeboys, they got guns. That led us to this night. So we get into it with these dudes in the project, then nothing happened. So we were like, man, we just gonna leave. So when we walking, me, my cousin, one of my friends, we walking to my house. We split up. A lot of the rest of the kids, they go this way. Us three, we go this way. So when we get close to this movie store, my friends say, y'all want to rob Movie Magic? So I'm like, nah, we ain't gonna rob no store. That ain't what we do. We don't do that. So he was like, man, we're gonna get away with it, man. Stop acting scared. Man, I don't care what you say. We ain't gonna rob no store. I'm 14. So when we get to the store, my cousin see that the store clerk, the only person in the store. So now he like, man, come on, let's go on do it. We're gonna get away. She the only one in there. Come on, man. I'm like, man, y'all ain't talking about nothing. So he was like, you ain't even gotta go in, man. Just stand outside. Don't let nobody walk up on me. I never told him yeah. I never told him no. But when I was coming up, we was always taught to have family back. You know, that's what got us through our struggle. Each other, the love we have for each other. That's what got us through the struggle. So in my mind, he already dictated my decision when he decided to be a part of this robbery. I didn't say nothing though, but I'm gonna watch out for him. I ain't gonna let nobody walk up on him. They go in the store. I really thought they were gonna chicken out because to my understanding, to my knowledge, they never did this before. Never. They never robbed nobody. So I'm thinking they gonna punk out. I did. Till my homeboy, he pulled a gun on the store clerk. So when I saw it, I'm like, man, I'm not scared, but I'm not, this is not what I'm into. You know, this ain't what I do. So I opened the door and I stepped 1 foot in the store, no lie. And I said, man, I thought y'all was just playing. Boom, he shot a kid. I, to this day, think my voice scared him and made him pull the trigger. That's what I think. At least that's what I tell myself to try to justify why he killed this innocent woman. You know, we ran. I get life without parole in prison. That was my 14 years on the street. A piece of it. That's what happened.
And hearing life without parole, like what goes through your mind? Like what we see it in movies, maybe even some of us been in some court cases, maybe I know we have some lawyers on the call, but like what goes through your mind when someone says that you are sentenced to prison with life without parole?
For me, you know, when I get these questions, you know, I try to personalize them because how I feel and how he feels is not the same. You know, I cannot and will not speak for another person. So when I got life without parole, when the judge said I was guilty and he said life without parole, for me, it numbed me instantly. Like I didn't shed a tear. I turned and I looked at my mama and the whole courtroom was crying. Even the jury was crying. So I just turned back around. You know, it was like, at that moment, I had just got numbed. Like I couldn't feel nothing, I couldn't cry, I couldn't nothing. But I also got more angry. I got angry. But I sat there like, you know, I didn't have a face expression. I didn't have a outburst or nothing. I just sat there and I listened to everybody behind me just cry and said everything that they felt like needed to be said. So maybe after 20 seconds, I stood up and I turned around to the sheriff or whoever was right there, and I was like, take me back to my cell. I didn't want to be around nobody. I didn't want to cry. I was just numb and angry. That's how it made me feel. And my whole 16 and a half years in prison, I never shed a tear, ever. Not one time. I was just angry. I was in disbelief. I was, it was shocking to me because it was like, you knew I didn't kill or had anything to do with this murder, and you still sentenced me to die in prison like I didn't mean nothing. But at the time, I didn't understand that I was guilty for being a young Black boy. You know, it wasn't the fact that I was innocent for the murder or innocent for the attempted robbery, but I was guilty because of my scheme. And it took me years to learn that.
And that was your first introduction really to the criminal justice system. You haven't been in trouble prior to that, is that correct?
Nah, that's wrong. I am. You know, like I told you, we used to steal, so I got a couple stealing charges.
Okay.
I got a couple stealing charges. Nothing major.
Nothing
Nothing to send me to prison for life without parole.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had a couple of minor stealing charges, you know, led me to probation or a juvenile detention center for a couple days or weeks, you know, a month or two, but nothing major.
What's interesting, Kuntrell, is that, I mean, what an amazing story, but also the way that you frame your experience. And I don't know if this is like now 2020 hindsight or if you was having this experience during your prison sentence, but the quote that I actually used on the flyer where you said in your book, prison saved my life. If they really wanted to destroy me, they would have let me free. Can you talk a little bit about how did you come to that like philosophy or that realization?
Yeah. You know, I always knew when I was a child, like I thought different from other kids. And I ain't saying this trying to make myself seem like I'm this or I'm that, but it's facts. Like it's true. I always thought different than other kids. Like I'm 35 years old. And to this day, I have never drunk, never smoked, not even tried it not one time. And when I tell people that, they be like, what are you lying, man? You had to do something. I'm like, man, I ain't never tried it. And the reason for it, because my mama, she used to smoke weed. And I think my stepdad used to stress my mom out. And she made the marijuana her excuse to get away from everything that was going on, reality. So my mom, she used to get high. She'll smoke that weed and then she'll forget like where she put her keys at or where she put her purse. She'll just forget, but then she'll make us look for it. And when we get to looking for it, it's right here on the table. Like, and I used to always say to myself, man, I ain't gonna never be like that when I get old. So my stepdad, he used to work Monday through Friday. Every week, Monday through Friday, he worked. But Friday through Sunday, he drinking. He drinking. I'm talking about ain't no ifs, ands, he drinking. So when he come home, I told y'all we already broke, we poor, we struggling. So when he come home, he drunk, he want to clown, he want to tear stuff, throw TV, punch holes in the wall, break tape. We ain't got nothing. But then you come and you destroy the littleness that we have. So now we get in an even further hole because when you get paid, you got to replace something. So now we deep and deep in the hole. And I used to always say to myself, man, I ain't gonna never be like that when I get grown. So just those incidents right there made me never smoke and drink. It's just my thought process when I was little. I used to watch people and I used to learn. I told you I was an introvert, so I barely talk. all I did was watch. I used to watch, and I used to learn, and I'm a fast learner. So that's what I did. And I always feel like those things that they did was messing them up. And I didn't want that to happen to me. So I never did it. I just thought different. So in prison, you know, when I got my life sentence, you know, like I said, I was angry. So I go to prison. I'm 17. I'm 17 years old. They shipped me to prison. I stayed in the county 2.5 years. So I didn't go to prison until I was 17, you know. So when I go to prison, I'm the youngest person in prison. I don't know nothing, but my mentality is I'm gonna kill somebody. So I'm the littlest person. I'm little, you know, and you know, I got these ideas in my head about prison because of TV and things like that. But that's not prison. That's TV is not prison. Get that out y'all head, please. But when I go to prison, that's what I'm thinking I'm gonna have to do. But when I get there, I got older homeboys from my city. They take me in. They like, nah, man, that ain't how prison. I'm like, man, I'm killing. They like, nah, whoa, hold up, man, let me talk to you. So what they did, they was talking to me. They was giving me the gang, and they was telling me how prison operated. Prison is a respect thing. You don't have to do nothing if you don't be disrespected. If you don't disrespect nobody, you good. Plus, we got you. So what they did, they was like, man, you need to get in here and educate yourself, learn. Think about what, man, you got a letter. You don't have no number. Man, you got to keep that in your mind. Don't never forget that. So I have never read a book in my life, ever. So the warden, he was a black man. He locked me down straight through the door. He locked me down. He said I was too young, too much time. And he gave me this book. He was like, I want you to read this book. And he was like, I'm going to question you on it, so you better read it. Pay attention. So I'm like, ah. He gave me the book called We're All Doing Time. So after he gave me that, he gave me the Miseducation of a Negro. So I'm like, God, dog, man, I ain't with this read, but I got to read the word. So when I started reading, what it did was another thing popped up, another light popped up in my head, like, man, I like learning about stuff. I never knew this, I never knew that, but now I'm seeing like, yeah, that make a lot of sense. So yeah, I seen that, they ain't lying. So now I'm turning into a sponge. Like I want to learn everything. I want every piece of information. I got a book about a fish. I don't know nothing about no fish. I'm just reading. I'm telling this guy, I can't make this up, man. I'm just reading stuff. So now I'm learning, I'm getting educated. So I'm like, oh man. So my mind now, I'm like, man, you somebody. I'm like, them folks done threw you away like you was nothing. But you gonna show them I was rebellious too. Like you tell me no, I do. You tell me yeah, I won't do it. You know, I was just rebellious like that. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna show them. They gave me life without parole, man. I'm somebody. I'm gonna show them I'm somebody. So I started going harder and harder now with the educating myself. So now I'm trying to sharpen people around me, and I'm like, man, if you ain't on what I'm on, get away from me, you know, because you don't mean me no good. Like I ain't gonna be here forever. Like I never thought I was gonna be in prison forever, and I ain't saying that because I got free, but I turned prison into a university. You know, they told me, they said, okay, I got my GED. So then I wanted to take college courses. I want to take this program. So they denied me. They say, no, you can't take that because you got life without parole. You're not eligible. I'm not eligible. They're like, yeah, if you got life without parole, you're not eligible to take these courses or these classes or these programs. So I was like, I told you I'm rebellious. So at this time, I got EJI as my attorneys though. So I called them and I was like, look, I tried to take college courses. They say I'm not eligible because I got life without parole. I said, can y'all do me a favor? Can y'all get like college work and send it to me and I do it and then I send it back to y'all grade it and send it back? They're like, yeah, we can do that.
Oh wow.
So
wait, that was your introduction to the EJI, was that you were asking for college course work?
No.
Okay.
No. This after that.
Okay.
But that's what I was doing. So now I'm educating myself. And I felt like the more education I get, the more powerful I become. You know, you can lock me up all day long, but you can't lock my mind up. And then I'm reading these self-help books. you know, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm getting it. But the thing, the greatest thing that happened to me in prison was I didn't believe in God. I didn't. Because the struggle we was going through, my mom, she's so great, she awesome. I ain't met a woman like her yet. And I used to always feel like if it was a God, he wouldn't allow my mama to go through what she go through, you know. All I had was my family. They was the one getting us through. It wasn't God, so I didn't believe in God. So when I got incarcerated, all the people that claimed they loved me, and I was so in love with my family, I was, you know, I loved them folks to death. And when I got incarcerated, every single one of them, except my mama and one of my sisters, and I told y'all I'm the baby of 5 kids, they all turned their backs on me. They abandoned me. They treated me like I was dead. So that broke my heart. It crushed me, man. That was like the worst pain outside of my auntie that I have ever felt. It was worse than the life without parole. So when they did that, it was like I was at my lowest. So I was like, let me try this thing they call God. Let me call on God. So that's what I did, you know, and I got closer and closer to God. I built a relationship with God. So I started believing in God, man, and I strengthened my faith. I got saved and I got baptized and I became a believer. So when I did that, you know, I found God, and, you know, when I found God, I found myself. And when I found myself, he blessed me with understanding. The greatest thing ever could have happened to me in prison. So when I did that, it was like, now I turned prison into a university. So I came to prison and I became the man who I am today because of my situation. Yeah, I'm innocent, but I gained so much from this experience. But when I was on the streets, I was a dummy. I was an airhead. Like I didn't know nothing. I didn't have no knowledge. I didn't have no information. I ain't know nothing. I was a dummy, you know. Only thing I knew was violence. Only thing I knew was my environmental mind frame that we was forced to be placed up in and do. Like I didn't know nothing else. All I knew was that stuff. You know, I didn't know that it was something else out there besides Blytheville, Arkansas. I didn't. I didn't know it was nothing else out there besides my neighborhood, my environment, and the environment that mirrored my environment. That's all I knew. I didn't know nothing else. So I was like, I came to prison and I got saved, you know, versus staying on the streets. I was a dummy, probably would have been dead. So I was like, they thought they got me by locking me up with life without parole, but they saved me. So that's why I came up with if they really wanted to destroy me, they would have left me free. Because I was gonna crash myself. So they did me a favor. It became a university to me. Prison saved me. But that don't work and that don't happen for everybody. That's just me. I ain't glorifying prison, and I hope people don't take that as I am, because I'm not. Prison is a place I won't wish on no one. I'm telling you, it's not TV. The stuff that they show on TV, they have concepts of prison, but that's not prison at all, you know.
Kuntrell, we have about 10 minutes left together, and I want to open it up for the folks to ask questions. But I do have one question, or maybe some advice you may have we have a few people who are students who are majoring in criminal justice. They want to be the future FBI, CIA agents, or detectives and lawyers and judges. What is something that you some wisdom or advice that you want to share with them as they think about what it means to live and operate in a just society?
Benevolence. You know, there's really nothing else you can get besides that. You know, if you have a benevolent person, I don't care what job they have, I don't care what they do in life. You know that when you see wrong is wrong. You know right. So you're gonna do everything in your power to do right. You know, I think a lot of these people that's polices and, you know, judges, and notice I said a lot, not all, But a lot of these people that's in these positions that have this power, they're not benevolent. They don't care for you and me. You know, they don't care for no one but themselves and the power. So if I don't love you and I don't care about you, I don't really care what happened to you. You know, but if I have compassion in my heart, if I say I care about this person like he my brother, I don't see no color. It's just a person. You know, whenever you run across me with a situation and I'm a judge, I'm gonna look at you as a person first. Now I want to understand. I want to know who you are. I want to know why. Like what led you up to this moment?
Right.
How did you get here? But that's because I care. If you don't care, it won't happen. For example, look at President Trump. He never cared about folks. He didn't. So he didn't care what happened to us. You know, a long time ago when China had this experience with this coronavirus, he could have locked America down. But he didn't care. You know, that's another story though.
Right.
But I just feel like the people that's getting into law, you have to be benevolent. You got to love and care for others. But you must stand for the truth. If you don't stand for the truth, then you just gonna be another one of them. You know?
And you know, that goes along with our tenets and values as a Catholic institution that's rooted in the religious sacred of Heart of Mary, the religious Sacred Heart of Mary tradition, that we are to see and to promote others to live in their fullness, right? Other institutions or other orders of the religious, the Catholic orders talk about this cura personalis, right? Like the care for the person, the whole person. And I think that's the common theme that we hear in Just Mercy, that we hear in your story, is really caring for the whole person, being able to see people in their fullness, right? Even at you at the age of 14, like having someone just being able to see you in your full potential in that moment might have changed, right? A little bit of someone's decision who had the gavel or whoever the case was, right? And so that's what this book has challenged me, and I'm sure many others, to always look at is to consider the full potential of people and the humanity of people. And so I'm so in awe with your story, and just I hope that and I pray that it touched someone's lives tonight. I know that it will, and I know that we're recording it, and hopefully we'll share it throughout our networks for our students who are unable to make it. But I do want to offer about a couple minutes just for folks who have any questions for Kuntrell, and you can either, you know, mute yourself or just drop it in the chat, and we'll recognize it that way.
I actually got a question.
Yep.
So for me, I kind of related in some parts with your story and all that, because I have a story of my own. Tate kind of knows a little bit about it. But for me, I just wonder, like, what drives you right now to be where you are in life?
The thing that drives me right now is I came back to society and I have seen and constantly seeing more kids are dying before the elders. And that just unheard of to me. Like, how are these kids dying before our great-grandparents? You know, so it's like when they die, that's our future dying. You know, and I feel like my generation failed them. And my generation failed them because we didn't know, because the generation before us failed us. But they didn't know either, so they can't teach us what they don't know. If you don't know something, you can't teach it. So I said, I'm gonna do everything in my power. You know, not talk to older people, because I'm gonna talk to everybody. But the main people I focus on are the youth. You know, they are future. And I know if we can get to them, if we can save them, if we can like inspire them, like just wake them up, If we can do that, you know, I know that they will grow and become our judges, our polices, our senators, our mayors. They'll become the people with the power, and they will be the ones that change what we fighting for, what we dying for, what we struggling to see. You know, I know this because it's too many people like our age and older that got power that don't care nothing about what's going on. But see, if we can get these kids and then we can instill this benevolence in them, then we can get that change that we all fighting for. But it's gonna take all of us. See, I talk to older people because I want to motivate, I want to inspire them to come stand beside me, not behind me, but beside me. I can't do this by myself, you know. And I know it's people that you can reach when they see you. You don't even know they see you, but they looking at you and they look up to you. So whatever they see you do, they gonna mimic that. And I stress that. I can't stress that enough to people. Watch what y'all do, especially when children are around. You know, they listening to all this music, watching all this Netflix and seeing all this social media, and they gone. They being misled. They lost. That's what drives me today. Our future. We losing.
Thank you.
Someone in the chat, thank you, Manny. Someone in the chat, Kuntrell, mentioned that you said that you wish you had someone to ask you how you were doing when you were young. Who might have done that for you? A teacher, a neighbor? And how can for young Kuntrells? I'm sorry?
Anybody.
Anybody.
That got, anybody that got proximity to me that was showing me that they really cared. You know, that's why I was saying earlier, you know, with these kids, if you don't get close to these kids, they not gonna open up to you. They not. See, when I was growing up, at least we did have role models and OGs and things like that. I heard these kids, they like, man, I ain't got no role model. I don't got, be like, what? You know, that's crazy to me. We looked up to somebody. You know, so now I see them, they don't look up to nothing but social media. They do. It's so many followers out here. It's crazy. You know, we don't have enough leaders. And I'm seeing the bull crap that they following, and I'm just thinking like, man, what if all these rappers became positive and they went this way with the things they doing? They got all these followers. They don't know how to lead, so what they gonna do? They gonna follow, but they gonna be following in the right way, because everyone can't be leaders. Everybody can't be a leader. It's just what it is. It's facts. Everybody not built to be leaders, you know. So yeah, man, that's
We I believe I have one question. Ms. Johnson, I think you raised your hand. You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask a quick question. As you were seeking your relationship with God throughout your experience, what was like in seeking your walk of faith? What was kind of like your I had my question, and as soon as I came on, it kind of went away. What was like your what kept you going like throughout your process? Was it like feeling his presence? Like kind of, can you go into a little detail about like that experience?
Oh, yeah, most definitely God. You know, everything I do, everything that happened to me, everything that don't happen to me, I thank God, but I blame him. You know, I got to give him his glory. So of course it was God. You know, I always thought that, you know, it was never a God, but the whole time he was carrying us, he was carrying me when I thought he wasn't there. So of course it was God, but what happened when I was little, you know, and I'm so grateful she never, my mama, like my mama, she was so, my mama was a strong woman. Like, and she was prideful. Like everything we went through, she didn't want to tell nobody. She didn't want to ask for no help. She'll make it happen. Like, man, the grocery store 2 miles away. It's 95 degrees. She'd be like, come on, we finna walk to the store. To the what? When she say the store, you know, this store way over here. Like, we finna walk. So now we walking with these grocery bags. I'm sweating like a Hebrew. You know, it's just, she was strong. I'm telling you, that lady was strong. I'm telling you, no lie. She walked to work, she walking back. But the one thing she never did, she never shielded us from what was going on. So unconsciously, she was teaching me how to be strong. I was there with her through it all. So she was just passing her strength down to me, but she didn't know it. And I didn't know it until I got older, you know. So I know that's what I got it from. She was a fighter, you know, she's still a fighter. So when I got to prison, that's what it was. You know, it was like, I ain't gonna give up. I'm gonna fight. You know, it was just in me. And I told you I'm rebellious. So I was always trying to get up out of there. I was always trying to keep a sane head because I saw dudes in prison that, you know how they got the saying, only the strong survive?
Mm-hmm.
Even the strong don't survive in prison. They don't. I have witnessed, like, strong. I know these dudes. Well, I'm gonna tell you this one particular story. I know this dude, strong dude, you know, I see him every day. That today, we sitting on visitation. I'm kicking it with my people. He right next to me. He kicking it with his white girlfriend, whoever she was. But we having a good time. We laughing. That night, he hang himself, kill himself. Strong brother. He hang himself that very night, killed himself. Even the strong don't survive. So it was like, I had to keep a sane mind, you know, and I was like, I ain't going like this, you know, I ain't gonna let them defeat me, you know. If I give up now, then they won't. And me, I'm not letting you win. But it was just the strength that I got from mama. You know, she gave me this strength. She taught it to me by not shielding us from reality. She went through it, we went through it right with her, and she didn't hide it from me. So I know, I know that's where it came from for me to get through prison. When in my environment, you know, my environment taught me to be strong. It taught me to be tough. It taught me how to survive. You know, you had to. Our number one instinct is survival. So when I got to prison, I was already prepared for it from my childhood. You know, people, they look at life without parole. They look at 16 and a half years in prison and they be like, oh man, that's bad. I'm sorry. I'll be like, man, don't apologize. It's okay. Because y'all tend to forget that I was 14 years old before I went to prison. All y'all see is 16 and a half years. My 14 years on the streets was worse than my 16 and a half years in prison.
Wow. And you're 35, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
So another question for you. So just wondering how your town is currently, like now in today's age. Do you know if in your town, if it's still, you know, the projects, the hood, all that, like if it's still there, are there any programs such as like My Brother's Keeper or Big Brother or anything like that, mentoring program for kids that were in a similar situation?
Man, they got some things. I remember this one program called Healing in the Hood, but you know, when COVID hit, he kind of, and I ain't like that, you know. I feel like he let COVID defeat him because when COVID hit, he kind of like shut it down. He kind of like stopped. So that was like the biggest thing down here. Like I'm in my city right now. I'm in my town right now. Okay. So that was like the biggest thing down here. And when COVID hit, he just, like he stopped fighting. And my mindset is, you know, I don't care what it is, rain, sleet, snow, whatever. Man, we don't leave these kids. We can't. We done lost them far enough. So, you know, I don't judge people. I don't fault people. I don't do that. But people do things that I don't agree with. And that was one of the things that I didn't agree with. And far as other program, I don't know. I ain't heard of none. And it be people, they be meeting me, they be like, oh my God, you him, oh, we need you to come talk to the kids and we need woo, woo, woo. But it's like, okay, I will, but what y'all doing right now while I'm not here? And they like, oh, well, they always give me an excuse because see, me, I'm straightforward and outspoken and I'm brutally honest. So if I got a question, if I don't know something, I'm gonna ask you. That's how I learn things, And I ask them, they get to stuttering, they get to shaking up on me, and I'm like, I really don't like when people try to get me to come do a speaking engagement somewhere. I try my best to find out about them. I don't really want to be involved with someone who only want me to say, I got Kuntrell Jackson. He was Brian Stevenson, big case in the U. I don't like that. Do it because you really want to help. If you plan and you just trying to get me for whatever popularity or you want somebody to say, give you a pat on the back, I'll turn you down. I will. And it'll hurt me because I know if I speak, somebody will be inspired by it. If it's just one person. And it hurt me to turn somebody down. But if you're not doing this for the right reason, man, you in the way. That's why I do what I do, because when I speak, I want to inspire somebody. I don't need but one person. Let me get one person. He probably can get 5 more, So only thing I want to do is come to somebody that's sincere. When you're sincere, we can make this thing work. I don't do nothing for no fame or for no attention or just to say, oh, I don't do that. I don't like it. I done lost out a whole lot in my 35 years. I done lost out a whole lot. I'm sure y'all can imagine. But just because I did, I ain't gonna let it make me try to finesse my way into a situation to get something. Right. I'm gonna do it because I'm sincere about it. That's just who I am as a person.
Well, let me be the first to say thank you for not saying no to us.
I got a chance to meet you though. Hey,
yeah, right. We met. Right.
Can y'all hold on for 1 second?
Yeah. Right. But I actually see one of my very good friends on the call right now, Betty from LA. Hey Betty, and we had a chance to meet Kuntrell, so I'm really excited that Kuntrell had an opportunity to really chat with us. And Kuntrell, I was just telling that Betty is on the call. I don't know if you remember her, but she was a part of the group with us. She's still in LA. And so, but that's just how remarkable your story was and how you really left an indelible mark on our hearts. And so I'm hoping once this COVID is over, then I'm going to make my way back to Montgomery and we can hang out, grab something to eat. And I just really appreciate you so much. Very, very short. So we're going to drop a, someone said Marymount to Montgomery. We're going to make it happen. Post-COVID, we coming down there. We're dropping a survey in the chat. We would love to get your thoughts and to let us know about how we can improve on programs like this. But Kuntrell, how can we keep in contact with you, but also get involved in what you're doing? I know you've been out now, what, 5 years?
Nah, it'll be 4 on the 21st.
Wow, 4 years. Wow, 4 years. And so what are you doing? How can we get involved and how can we support your efforts?
Man, I do this, I go around any type of event where I could just talk to a child, if I could just talk to a governor, a senator, a judge, a prosecutor, anything, it's like, I want to pick your mind. I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want to lecture you about nothing. That's not who I am. But I do want to have a conversation. I mean, if we have a discussion, I think we can come together and come up with great ideas to help everybody. So that's the thing I be involved with. Of course, I'm involved with EJI, but how you can get involved with helping me is, man, learn our history. you know, teach and conversate about our history. White people, please stop thinking this is not your history. It's yours too. Learn our history. You know, when you learn our history, you can understand like why things are happening today like they happen. If you don't know, you won't know. So learn our history, discuss our history, you know, get involved with these organizations that's really trying to make change. You know what I'm saying? I don't have my organization jumping yet, but it's coming. But get involved with these organizations like EJI, they perfect. And the thing I know about EJI, if you reach out to EJI and you got an idea or you need help with something you thinking about doing or want to do, they gonna lead you. They gonna point you out. They got all these organizations, man. You can join them and get involved with them. You know, you gotta take initiative and do it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody say I want to do. They do all this talking, but not enough walking. You know, everybody, you know, they say they want stuff, but then they don't act on it. You know, understand that what happened to me, that's real, man. That wasn't no TV.
Right.
People see me now and they like, oh, you out, you know, no. I had life without parole, man. I got out because the grace of God, it was a blessing. Man couldn't do what happened to me. That was an act of God for real. So, you know, I don't want people to forget that I actually had life without parole. And I didn't get life without parole because I actually killed somebody. I got life without parole because I was a black boy. That's why I got life without parole, man. So slavery never ended, it just evolved. They disguised it into mass incarceration. So that's how they was able to lock me up with life without parole because I was black. They ain't have to whoop me with no whip no more, chain me up. But they still had me locked down with life without parole as a form of slavery, you know. But I want y'all to understand and learn the history. We learn this history, we teach this history. White people, had a conversation amongst other white people about this history. You know, we need y'all to get comfortable with this history, you know, because I meet a lot of white people and they be acting all timid when this history come up. You don't have to be ashamed, scared, embarrassed, or whatever you want to call it, because what happened, it happened. It happened. Ain't no way around it. It happened, you know. So, you know, have this conversation amongst y'all peers and then black people. You do the same thing. And once we do that, after we do that, we can come together and have a conversation together, you know. But we got to be sincere with what we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so
and y'all
much.
can reach,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, my social media, all my social media is Kuntrell Jackson. All of them. You know, you respond to me, I'm gonna respond back. But all my social medias is my real name. So
and we dropped that in the chat. We dropped the name of your book through the pain I evolved, through all the pain I evolved, and the website kuntrelljackson.com. And I mean this wholeheartedly. If you're ever in DC, you want to come up, you got a place to stay, you can come and hang out with me, and I can come show you around Marymount. We're small, but we're mighty in Arlington.
I appreciate it.
And so I appreciate and honor your story and your brilliance, and I thank God for allowing you to be here and to survive what you have been through. Thank God for organizations like Equal Justice Initiative, and we just hope for greater to happen in the future with other organizations birthed out of this. Just Mercy is a great book to teach in classes. It's paired with New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, which Kuntrell, you alluded to a lot of the themes in her book as well. And so we have professors on this call right now. And so we're hoping that, you know, there's something will spark out of this, that we can create something together and make this this history relevant, and the history of the criminal justice system and the history of slavery, and to see how they are paralleled. And so thank you again. Thank you to Dean Brooke Berry. for believing in this program and for allowing us to bring in Kuntrell tonight. Thank you to the Marymount Inclusion Network for reading the book together, for having a community that really believes in this work and holding each other accountable. A special shout out to our Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Camille Buckner and Professor Susan Agalini. Both of them have been pushing our agenda forward. We appreciate your help. And all of our allies, all of our friends to the office, Ministry and Spiritual Life, always their support, and also the Criminal Justice Department. I saw Sarah Fisher on the call earlier, so thank you all for being here. We just appreciate you all greatly. And so we have a lot of programs coming up next week, and we hope that you all join our calls next week. We do have Dr. Tierney Bates from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, joining us for the Power Activism, and that's going to be led and moderated by our student leader, Brianna Johnson. So that's next Thursday at 7 p.m. And then we also have next Wednesday at noon, one of our Virginia State candidates for governor, Jennifer Carroll Foy, will be also talking about women of color in leadership.
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday, next Tuesday at noon. Please follow us on Instagram because we're posting this all on Instagram. We have all of these events hosted posted on Instagram and also at You Belong MU. And then of course you can follow us on MU Engage. So as Kuntrell stated, this history is our history. It's American history. Black history is American history. And so we're celebrating all month long. Well, according to the news on last night, if you all didn't catch it, we're celebrating all year long. So that's great. And but again, thank you all so much and have a good night. Stay safe, y'all.
Thank you.